This could be it. There could finally be peace in the Middle East. A plan set forth by President Donald Trump. If Hamas does not agree to his plan, President Trump says he will give Israel his full backing to finish the job to destroy the threat of Hamas. So this is Hamas's last chance to say yes to the plan or face complete destruction with the help of the United States. Here's President Trump moments ago standing next to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
This afternoon, after extensive consultation with our friends and partners throughout the region, I'm formally releasing our principles for peace, which people have really liked, I must say. If accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it, the people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it, to demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too. Israel is not going anywhere. They're going to coexist with other people and countries in the region, from Syria to Lebanon to Saudi Arabia. The promise of a new Middle East is so clearly within our reach. This is the closest we've ever come to real peace, not fake peace, not political fool's peace.
White House correspondent Mike Carter is at the White House. Mike?
Hey, Greta, good evening. Well, the Damocles really holding up over all of this today at the White House. This news conference is Hamas has not yet agreed to this 20-point plan that the U.S. and Israel have now signed on to publicly. And so, a lot of the talk now is, are we seeing something similar to what we saw last month in Anchorage, Alaska, when President Trump met with President Putin? There was a lot of talk, a lot of rhetoric going into that, a lot of hope coming out of that press conference that something material would come from it, and no such word as of yet when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. Could that be different when it comes to Israel and Hamas? Here's a couple of the finer points with today's peace deal that, again, the U.S. and Israel have now signed on to. If both sides agree to this proposal, meaning Israel and Hamas, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed-upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended, and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. Within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, which they did today, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Now, President Trump in the presser said 72 hours after Hamas agrees as well. So there's a little bit of conflict there. We've asked for clarity from the White House. Once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life-sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th. Hamas and other factions agree to not have any role in the governance of Gaza, directly or indirectly or in any form. All military, terror, and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapon production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. And this is a big one, Greta. Gaza will be governed now under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee that will be under the supervision of a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, headed by President Trump. Israel also agreeing today it will not occupy or annex Gaza. And once all the hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons, they will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. And finally, upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will immediately be sent into the Gaza Strip. A Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created. And President Trump says if Hamas fails to agree to the terms set today, Israel has his blessing to finish the job.
Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas. But I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. but I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer.
Benjamin Netanyahu also calling the Qatar Prime Minister today in an Oval Office meeting with President Trump to apologize for Israel's strikes inside Doha on Hamas members a few weeks ago. A new trilateral agreement between Israel, the United States, and Qatar was also reached today. Benjamin Netanyahu says President Trump is the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
From Jerusalem to Tehran, from the Golan Heights to Gaza, you've proven time and again what I've said many times. You are the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And Mr. President, you and I both know it's not even close. I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel.
So, Greta, we'll see what the fallout is of this. Are these just words? Will Hamas agree to this deal? We're going to have to wait and see. But again, that is what's looming over today's news conference here at the White House. And no questions were taken, much like that summit in Alaska with Putin and Trump. Greta?
Mike Carter at the White House. Thank you. Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman joins me. Good evening, sir, and your thoughts about what we just listened to at the White House with President Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
I mean, I thought overall it was very strong, but also the optics too is also very strong. Obviously you can see there on your screen, the Prime Minister and the President are there. And clearly, the Prime Minister is very, very enthusiastic about it and fully backs this as well, too, with Israel's buy-in. And now, of course, it's very clear now the President will fully back Israel if Hamas decides to reject this. And I can't imagine how Hamas thinks they could get a better deal for what was offered today. So I think overall, that was a very substantial and meaningful plan to move forward, and now really effectively puts the ball firmly in Hamas's court.
Well, it certainly seems to me it's a win for Israel, because in the event Hamas doesn't accept this, now it has the full power of the United States behind him, at least what President Trump said. Even though we're very supportive of Israel, this seems to have gone further. So, you know, Israel wins either way, either as peace or it's going to eliminate Hamas. But who is... I mean, all the leaders of Hamas have been eliminated, or most of them. Hania, the Sinwar, and his brother. Who does Israel negotiate with, or the United States?
Well, for me at this point, I've been very clear, and I fully backed Israel. Been supported everything that Israel has done post 10/7 at this point. But you know, forcing Hamas to effectively surrender and now disarm and send all the hostages home. I mean, that's clearly been addressed in the proposal as well. And furthermore, it allows people now. It's not going to have a different kinds of a government, and it's not going to definitely never be Hamas, and it's not going to be the PA. It's going to be a new way forward. Is now that's part of it too. Now, Hamas, they've also something amnesty for that. And I can't imagine Hamas could get a better deal for there. And I thought overall it was pretty comprehensive. And now if Israel fully buys into this, as it seems like it has, then I have to nothing but to support that as well too. And now, of course, it depends on what Hamas, how they respond. But if they don't, it's clearly that they are only interested in just preserving themselves and maintaining a military position there, what's left. And now Israel now has already put itself right down and gone into Gaza City. And that's also part smart as well, too. The second they say no, Israel is right there to finish the job and now root out Hamas, what remains.
Well, it's clear if they say no, Hamas does not care one lick about the Palestinians, nothing. You know, not that anyone ever,
Oh, of course
at least
not,
I
yeah.
never thought that they did. I never thought they've used them as human shields, and they've done everything else. But the amnesty, I think, that you mentioned is important, because that in one of the prior proposals, they wanted amnesty. I mean, these killers, these terrorists want an amnesty. They're going to get it if they just lay down their arms.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, I mean, I don't love the fact that they have to release 250 lifers, and that means they've obviously killed or harmed Israeli civilians through terrorism and those things. But regardless, though, where they're at, and I do think that was very comprehensive. And now neither the Israelis, of course, our nation never referred to the Palestinians as unnecessary sacrifices. That's Hamas. You know, they don't care how many Palestinians die throughout all this war. That's all part of the plan, the way they designed that. And all of it, and all of this misery could end right now. Effectively, that was laid down at the White House today, that it could end now, right now. And why this is so much more comprehensive than, you know, just like our allies, you know, like France, you know, like, let's recognize Palestine. No, like, that's not peace. That's really, was a gift to Hamas. But to today, this is effectively putting the ball right there in Hamas's court. And now, do you really want peace, and do you want a path forward for the Palestinians, or not? And now Israel is right there ready in Gaza City to finish out the job.
Do you agree with Prime Minister Netanyahu, looking back in history, that President Trump is the greatest friend in the White House that Israel has had? And I think he even added, not even close. I mean, does President Trump, get big high marks for his support of Israel?
Well, I mean, that's one of those areas that the president and I strongly agree on, that, what he's chosen to do during his presidency, both in his first term, also now here and now. The Abraham Accords, or for moving the capital of Israel, a lot of those things. I've supported those things. But for right now, too, the Iranian nuclear facilities and providing all of the weapons that Israel needs, I fully support that. So no, that's one of the areas that the president and I strongly agree. And now, perhaps I might be the only Democrat, but I'm going to follow the truth throughout this Gaza war, and that's always remained firmly on Israel's side. And the Trump administration really has been very firmly on the Israel side.
Well, I suppose in the next 24, 48 hours, we'll see what Hamas has to say about this. Senator John Fetterman from the great state of Pennsylvania. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you for having me back.
Thank you. Coming up, former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted by a grand jury. United States Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche joins me when the record continues.
Will you be able to afford your golden years? Do you worry how you'll make ends meet? You may be leaving up to $100,000 unclaimed. You need this special report. How to boost your Social Security and retirement by at least $100,000 or more. Get your free copy today. You've earned the benefits. Take advantage now. See our special offer to claim your free report. Call or go online today.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age, with my wife Shirley, who is 82. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the 2 videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
With the best Halloween decor from Michaels, we're not twinning, We're winning. Because Michaels has everything to show our different sides. Ooh. Don't touch my stuff. I saw it first. Mom!
Unless you live under a rock, you know that last week former FBI Director James Comey was indicted by a grand jury. He is the first FBI director in its 117-year history to be indicted. This indictment alleges that Comey made a false statement during his testimony before Congress back on September 30th, 2020. Comey's testimony back 5 years ago was about his handling of the investigation into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Comey maintains he's innocent, but not everyone, despite no trial yet, agrees. Here's former attorney for President Donald Trump and now a foe of President Trump, Michael Cohen.
I've learned that Comey was actually very much involved in the Russia investigation in a very negative way. And chances are this DOJ has every single email, every text message, every communication. I believe likely he will be found guilty.
Oh, well, that's interesting because
I think he
on
likely
the right,
committed a crime.
Wait, what? What specifically?
I believe likely he committed a crime. I don't know what that crime is, but there are hundreds of thousands of documents, and government has each and every one of them. All they need to find is that one.
U.S. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche joins me. Good evening, sir.
Hi, how are you, Greta?
Very well. What you've charged him with requires, or the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Eastern District of Virginia, showing of intent, which is often very hard to do because you got to sort of jump in the person's mind and convey that to the jury. Tell me this. The thing that's bothered me all along about James Comey is that after he was fired, he took some notes that he'd had and he gave them to a law professor at Columbia because he didn't want his fingerprints on them, and had his law professor friend leak them to the New York Times because he didn't want his fingerprints on them. And it was always sort of a dirty thing that I thought he did that he didn't have courage. Is that an intent that you can extrapolate to this crime or not when you try to show his bad intent?
You're right. That's one of the key parts of any false statements case is proving that the person you've charged knew what they were saying, knew what they were doing, and knew that it was a lie. And I will tell you that this case is like a lot of cases that happen every single day at the Department of Justice. There's a lot of work that goes into it by the FBI and by the prosecutor on the case. And so this is not just something that sprung up in the middle of the night. This is something that has been investigated for a long time. And one of the things that, of course, matters, Greta, you're right, is intent. And the grand jury returned an indictment last week, and the case will get started next week, and we'll go from there.
All right, you said it's been investigated a long time, so naturally my antenna goes up because of all the criticism about lawfare. Was this the investigation in the Department of Justice begin before President Trump's second administration or after?
Well, there's been a lot. Look, I wasn't here, obviously, during the last administration. There's been a lot of public commentary about Mr. Comey over the years. I can tell you that this is not lawfare in any way, shape, or form. People that were in the government and that are in the government, including myself, have to be held to a high standard. And we're doing everything we can at the Department of Justice every day to hold individuals, current and former, to that high standard. And that's what this case is about.
Would you expect that the person actually trying the case, the U.S. Attorney is the one who's been out front on this, but a woman who admittedly has very little experience, no experience trying a criminal case. She's an acting U.S. Attorney just recently assigned. I take it you wouldn't expect that she would actually be the trial lawyer in the case, but there'd be some line assistant in that office?
We're still working on that, and I mean, Lindsey Halligan's a great lawyer. She's been a lawyer for the president for a long time. I've known her for many years. The president has a lot of faith and trust in her. I have a lot of faith and trust in her. And so what she ultimately decides to do with the actual prosecution of the case is something that's really up to her and her judgment. And so we'll see how that plays out over the next couple weeks.
Turning to another issue, the auto pen. If the auto pen was used to sign pardons or anything else, and President Biden didn't have knowledge of it, but somebody else did it, hypothetically, is that a crime?
Well, hypothetically, if what you just said took place, very much could be. Think about what that would mean. That would mean that individuals around the president were engaging in conduct reserved solely for the president, The pardon power is vested in one person, and that's the President of the United States. And so if individuals around him were using an auto pen or doing anything to deceptively cause pardons to be issued or commutations to be issued, that should scare every single American. It certainly scares me. And so if that's what the investigation uncovers, we'll see where it goes. But that's obviously the biggest issue here is it's okay to use an auto pen. It's okay to use one, but the president still has to be the one to direct it.
Let me turn to another issue that's been bugging me for years, and that's Freedom of Information Act. And you have a division at the Department of Justice that does FOIA requests, and they have been painfully slow to the point that they really don't have, that law is just gutted. It doesn't have transparency. Do you see this administration revamping FOIA within your department so that it really does provide the transparency that the law was intended?
You're totally right. I mean, the transparency that the American people have demanded for years and years wasn't there. And a lot of that has to do with FOIA and the way that it's implemented. I can tell you this. I can tell you since day one, the Attorney General, myself, Director Patel, we've been committed to transparency. And so what you've seen is that we have been responding to FOIA requests much quicker. We've been giving information to the people that request it, to Congress, to Senate, to the Hill. And that's because we take our transparency obligations very seriously. Whether that's going to be a revamp of the FOIA laws, I don't know, but I know that I can do my part, Attorney General Bondi can do her part, and Director Patel can do his part to really buy back some of that trust of the American people when it comes to transparency and making sure that we're getting documents that should be available to the public and making them available to the public.
Well, just as a side, I made a request about 2 years ago, and they said I'd get my information in 5 years. But Attorney General Bondi, who I've known for since the 90s, was very helpful in making sure that the law did apply, and I did get the documents, and so I'm grateful. But I was just lucky to keep pounding her. She didn't do anything wrong; she just followed the law. But I appreciated it. U.S. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Coming up, a big shakeup in New York City's mayoral race, and it will impact you even if you don't live there. That when the record continues.
O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
My name is Deanna Perrazzo, and I'm a professional wrestler. I want to use my spotlight to help T2T because my husband was a combat veteran. Helping vets is so important because they're often the most disregarded people in our society. And so to be able to say, like, we see you, we see the sacrifice, we see the struggle you go through to support us in our scariest moments, that deserves to be celebrated, that deserves to be honored. Please help by donating $11 a month at T2T.org. Let us do good.
We all have that list of home improvement projects we need to do. And if replacing your home's windows and doors is on that list, you want to know that it's going to be affordable. I'm from Renewal by Andersen, and we've helped thousands of customers who are on a budget get our windows and doors for their home. How do we do it? Well, here's something you don't expect to hear from a window company. You don't have to upgrade all your windows and doors at the same time. We're really good at identifying the bad windows and those you can wait on replacing. And here's something we offer that you don't find with a lot of window companies or contractors: great financing options.
Before September 30th, buy one window, patio door, or entry door and get the next one 40% off. Plus, get an extra $200 off your entire purchase. With no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 12 months.
It's almost like free money. No wonder half of our customers finance. Before we talk about the warranty, think about other things you've bought. Did it sometimes feel like you had to buy the expensive extended warranty to get the good coverage? That's never the case with us. Our windows are so durable and our installers are so talented. Unlike some other companies, our warranties cover the windows and the installation.
It's really impressive that they sell the product, they manufacture the product, they install the product, because then you're dealing with one company, and you're dealing with one company that has a long-standing and solid reputation.
Let Renewal by Andersen help put great windows and doors in your budget this year.
Before September 30th, buy one window, patio door, or entry door and get the next one 40% off. Plus, get an extra $200 off your entire purchase. With no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 12 months. call before September 30th. 1-800-514-3600. That's 1-800-514-3600.
Wounded Warrior Project empowers post 9/11 veterans and their families with life-changing programs and services.
I faced my PTSD, and I'm a better husband and father because of it.
We help warriors get the expert care and support to thrive.
I got involved. I got healthier. I got to be an athlete again.
Through our programs, community, and advocacy, we're proving
anything is possible.
Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/connect.
Jesus Christ came to take the muck out of you. Let me send you this free book, The Everlasting Gospel of Christ. This is absolutely free. We simply want you to know Jesus Christ.
Well, Adams is out. Yesterday, in a surprise video from Gracie Mansion, New York City Mayor Eric Adams dropped the big news he will not seek re-election as mayor of New York City. This news could have a seismic impact on a New York City mayoral race. Adams' exit is expected to set up the race between Democrat Zoran Mamdani and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo is now running as an independent, but unlike Mayor Adams, lost in the Democratic primary to Mamdani by a significant margin. But it's not clear sailing for Mamdani as he takes on Cuomo in the general election, which is November 4th. There is a wild card in the race, Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa, who ran in 2020 for mayor and lost. Sliwa is polling at about 9% and says he will not drop out of the race. And the question, now that Adams is out of the race, who gets most of his votes, Mamdani or Cuomo or Sliwa? Lots of guessing, but no one knows for sure. And that means New York City's general election is still up for grabs. Mamdani says that he is a Democrat socialist. The word socialist causing some concern on Capitol Hill on both sides of the aisle. President Trump and many in the GOP are warning about the consequences of a Mamdani win. New York's Democratic leaders, Senator Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, have yet to endorse Mamdani. Their hesitation to endorse him is causing a rift in the Democratic Party. The more moderate Democrats are worried that some progressives in their party are too far left, and they may have a point. In the 90s, former President Bill Clinton sounded a whole lot like the Republicans of today, and Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, shared the same sentiment.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration into this country. We know now that too many people come in for medical care as it is. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have.
And just today, this was the headline in the Wall Street Journal. Rahm Emanuel, weighing presidential bid, navigates a Democratic Party moving left. And for a piece of trivia, Emanuel worked in the Clinton White House as a senior advisor to President Clinton. Chairman of CPAC, Matt Schlapp, and former special assistant to President Biden and former press secretary to the First Lady, Michael LaRosa, joins me. Michael, when you listen to the Clintons back in '93 and where the Democratic Party is today, what do you think?
Wow, we've certainly come a long way. And I was reading some of Bill Clinton's speeches during some of the Doge cuts earlier this year because he had a similar philosophy as President Trump when it came to reducing the size of government, working with the private sector and local and state government to sort of reduce some of that federal bureaucracy and bloatedness. But I think the biggest tell about where we are as a Democratic Party is how we feel about crime and law enforcement. It's completely different. I mean, Bill Clinton signed a law written by Joe Biden. Was the toughest crime bill in our country's history. It was supported by police unions. And now, you know, as we talked about on your show earlier, you have President Biden and his commuting sentences of the death penalty rather than expanding the death penalty, which was part of his law. And so, yeah, the party's in a different place, but I don't think it's going to be helpful.
Why did you Republicans vilify Clinton when you listened to him, Matt?
Because believe it or not, he sounded extreme on a lot of issues back then. But if you put it in today's context, he signed basically what eliminated gay marriage in the country, the Defensive Marriage Act. He talked about abortion being safe, legal, and rare. What Michael just brought up, they had this whole thing of reinventing government, privatizing things, although they ended up just shifting it all to consultants. But I mean, they had to talk moderate. Every Democrat knew you were only going to get to the White House if you talked moderate. And Barack Obama shattered that mold. Now we have to ask ourselves, was that good for Democrats that he shattered it? Or is this lurch to the left going to help them in the long run?
But one thing Clinton and Obama did before they got to a larger electorate was try to provide some assurance on cultural issues. You saw Clinton willing to stand up against his party with that Sister Souljah moment back in '92 when it came to the race riots. And you saw whether you like him or not, Obama was forced to sort of give that speech on race because of this radical pastor that he had to condemn before people were really. If Democrats can't get to a common sense position on culture, they won't trust us on the economy.
So what was the Joe Biden moment? I can't remember it. Did he have a moment when he
beat
there wasn't one.
He beat Biden to the issue of gay marriage and made Obama mad because he was vice president.
Yes, he did.
That's also true.
But tell me this: in light of that, Matt, you've got the candidate for mayor in New York who is very far left, calls himself a socialist Democrat, and then you have Rahm Emanuel, who looks like he's testing the waters.
Yeah, so these are the city people, right? So the question is, I look at our big cities, and I think they're hopelessly broken. Maybe not Miami, maybe not Dallas, but the other cities riddled with crime. They're sanctuary cities, so they have a lot of illegals in them. And it's a real question for the Democratic Party because that's always been the center of their focus. We're more rural on our side. They're more urban focused. But with the cities in the state of disarray they're in, how does that work? I would say this. When you have the head of the leaders of the Democratic Party still not endorsing this Mamdani, who it's very hard to say his name, by the way.
I stumbled on it.
I know we've all stumbled. Well, I guess hopefully we don't have to get to know him. But anyway,
Obama used to be a difficult name for some Republicans too.
It's still difficult for me to say. But the point is that they haven't even all endorsed him yet. And this idea before this all important midterm that the Democratic Party will embrace Marxism so clearly, I think they see the downside of that.
I've been concerned about the same thing. I think Mamdani could be a major noose around our necks going into an election year because Republicans are going to tie every Democrat, no matter what district you're from, no matter how conservative or moderate you are, to the party of Mamdani. And
can I give you an example? Today, he wouldn't criticize Hamas. That's an easy thing to do. They have hostages.
Look, no one's perfect. I want Cuomo. I hope Andrew Cuomo wins. I want a functioning city of New York. I want a capitalist city of New York. But I think the biggest tell was last week in Kamala Harris's answer on Rachel Maddow when Maddow was probably waiting, dying to ask the question, "Are you endorsing Mamdani?" What was her response? It was, "Sure, but," and she moved on to naming a million other names. She looked like she'd rather have dental surgery than endorse that guy publicly.
She's been pretty good at attacking people. You think she'd just go ahead and do it?
But no, she pivoted. She didn't want anything to do with an endorsement. And by the way, Obama hasn't endorsed him. Meanwhile, his Pod Save America network of alumni are criticizing every Democrat for not endorsing. And yet, where's Obama?
I think he's going to win.
I'm going to cut you both up because I want you both to come back all the time. And you better get used to Matt and Michael coming back all the time because we are now into the midterms. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Thank
Greta.
you. More protests breaking out, this time in Portland, Oregon. Protesters faced off with federal agents. This after President Trump deployed 200 National Guard troops to Portland. The president says the troops will protect immigration facilities against what he calls domestic terrorists. Trump added that he is authorizing lethal force if necessary in the Democratic-run city. State of Oregon has now filed a lawsuit against Trump, War Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Oregon's suit accuses Trump of unlawful federalization of the National Guard. Portland is the third city after Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., where Trump has sent the military. There were also protests in L.A. and Washington, D.C. over Trump sending troops to those cities. Right now, 300 troops remain deployed in Los Angeles. 2,300 troops are still patrolling the streets of our nation's capital. Coming up, a plane lands with a grisly discovery on board. That when the record continues.
Newsmax.
Shoots it straight. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think. Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax. Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think. They let me decide.
Real news for real people.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
My employees and I want to thank all of you at Newsmax for your continued support of MyPillow. It's because of you and the grace of God that we're making it through. And to thank you, we're bringing you the best offers ever. Get our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regularly $119.98, now only $29.88. Our My Towels are finally back in stock. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. Towels that actually work. What a concept. And for the first time and the only time ever, you're going to get our limited edition premium My Pillows. They're made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code when you order today. Inventory for these offers are extremely limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Hi, TV Genie.
What do you want?
I wish I could find my shows easier.
I wish my primetime TV was automatically recorded.
I wish I could record more.
Well, I can't do any of those things. So here, I swapped your outfits.
Switch to Dish. Get voice control, automatic primetime recording, and more recording power.
You're welcome.
Switching from DirecTV satellite to Dish can save you over $300 in your first year.
We should get Dish.
AI chatbots are being sold as friends, even romantic partners for our kids.
Character AI, a website that hosts AI companions, gets 20,000 queries a second.
Unregulated, untested, and already causing real harm. Our children are not test subjects. No more emotional manipulation. No more secret experiments on kids. We need safeguards. Stand with parents. Sign the petition to protect our kids before it's too late.
My allergic itch was a growing problem for me and my human. Then the vet gave me Apoquel. It works at the source and starts relieving itch in as fast as 4 hours.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Big or little itch, ask for Apoquel. Apoquel.
At Lumber Liquidators, we have the best prices on flooring, and we guarantee it. Find a lower price, we will beat it with our best price guarantee. We have over 200 stores nationwide. Find yours at lumberliquidators.com. Tell them Tom sent you.
After trying to end the war in Gaza with a visit from Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Trump switches gears to back home and our government. At midnight tomorrow night, will it shut down? Well, there's a fierce political standoff on Capitol Hill, and today President Trump is meeting with the top 4 members in Congress. From the House Speaker and Republican Mike Johnson and Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. In the Senate, Majority Leader John Thune and Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Senator Schumer, by the way, is speaking right now. Let's listen.
The fact that more than 20 million Americans are on the brink of experiencing dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which benefit working class Americans. And we pointed that out. I pointed that out. Working class Americans, their health care, that's what we're fighting to preserve, to defend, and to strengthen.
Thank you.
Question?
Yeah, want to take questions or not? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
By the way, that was Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. I do know the difference between the two men. Senator Schumer had just finished speaking. Okay, now that we know what is being said by those two men, or at least by Hakeem Jeffries, Minority Leader, Texas Republican Congressman Pat Fallon joins me. Good evening, sir. Do you want to look into the crystal ball for tomorrow night at midnight, or at least 12:01, or do we have money or not money?
Well, Greta, I'm a eternal optimist, but I do think that unfortunately the Democrats will let the government shut down. And let me explain why this is so different. First and foremost, the Republicans did not shut down the government when Joe Biden was president for all 4 years. We had the power to in the Senate because of the filibuster rule. They need 60 votes, but we chose not to do that because it wasn't in with the best interest of the American people, and it's not what the American people voted for at that time, not for minority government to rule. So why is Chuck Schumer doing this? He didn't do it in March, and now he's doing it because his Democratic base demands him to, quote unquote, fight Trump. This pivot to saying that it's about health care is not. That's a fight that will happen in November. This was a clean CR to just give us enough room to pass the appropriations bills.
All right, you say that'd be taken up in November, but that's if you get your continuing resolution to November 21st. I think, don't the Democrats want that taken up now and not doing a continuing resolution like that?
But the CR is clean, so it's not doing anything. We're keeping funding levels exactly where they are right now. To sit there and say it's about something else is just, they're just, again, throwing a little bit of slop to their base. Yeah.
Let me hold you for a second. The Vice President is speaking now. I think I got this name right.
As leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it. If you look at what Chuck Schumer has said in the past consistently, it's whatever our disagreements are, let's negotiate with them. Let's talk about them. Let's figure out a bipartisan solution, but you don't shut the government down. In other words, you don't put a gun to the American people's head and say, unless you do exactly what Senate and House Democrats want you to do, we're going to shut down your government. That's exactly what they're proposing out there. Now, we have to remember, they're very frustrated. They say that they're very frustrated about the fact that this negotiation has not taken place until today. But if you look at the original thing they did with this negotiation, it was a $1.5 trillion spending package, basically saying to the American people, we want to give massive amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care while Americans are struggling to pay their health care bills. That was their initial foray into this negotiation. We thought it was absurd. We told them it was absurd, and now they come in here saying that if you don't give us everything that we want, we're going to shut down the government. We think that's preposterous. We think it's totally unacceptable, and we think the American people are going to suffer because these guys won't do the right thing. Now, I want to make one final point here. You will hear a lot from Senate Democrats, from House Democrats about the fact that American health care policy is broken. Well, we know that American health care policy is broken. We've been trying to fix it for the 8 months that we've been in office, but every single thing that they accuse about being broken about American health care is policy the Democrats have supported for the past decade. So if they want to talk about how to fix American health care policy, let's do it. The Speaker would love to do it. The Senate Majority Leader would love to do it. Let's work on it together, but let's do it in the context of an open government that's providing essential services to the American people. That's all that we're proposing to do, and the fact that they refuse to do that shows how unreasonable their position is. I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing. I hope they change their mind, but we're going to see. I'll let the Speaker say a few words.
Let me go back to you, Congressman Fallon. In past times when the government is shut down, whether it's for a couple days or 33 days or 2 hours, whatever it is that people have been, and the federal employees have been furloughed. And then they come back to work and then they get their back pay. They don't get paid during the furlough, but they get their back pay. Mm-hmm. Is in this instance, are they getting fired this time? Or are they going to get furloughed if we go into a shutdown?
Well, the president has said that some folks may get laid off and not furloughed, but we'll see. And there's a couple of points to be made here, Greta. One is the Democrats, when Joe Biden was president, passed a clean continuing resolution 13 times. 13 times. The Republicans did not shut down the government. And this is an unserious alternative when they say, oh, we'll vote to keep the government open so long as we get $1.5 trillion additional dollars in spending. That, I can tell you for sure, is not what the American people voted for in November.
Well, we'll see what happens at midnight tomorrow night. Congressman Pat Fallon, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Greta. God bless.
Coming up, news about the 22-year-old accused of murdering Charlie Kirk. That when the record continues.
You okay in there? Consumer Cellular knows there are a lot of offers flying around, but they slip away too fast. We don't play games. What you see is what you get. No hot air, just plans starting at $20. Bet you're glad you wore cargo pants. Because cargo pants have all those pockets. You can see how we can cut your bill. Plans start at just $20. Call Consumer Cellular.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonex Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonex, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. Nonex is made in the USA and so effective, it's money-back guaranteed. Lift out the fungus with Nonex. For clear, healthy-looking nails, use Nonex Fungal Nail Clarifying Gel. Buy Nonex at Amazon, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
How does the world's most trusted dog expert keep his own dogs so healthy?
Hi, I am Cesar Milan. In my 20 years rehabilitating dogs, I've seen too many struggle with health problems that no amount of training could fix. Then I discovered it wasn't the dog, it was their food. Fortunately, I found veterinarian Dr. Marty's Anti-Kibo Breakthrough.
Nature's Blend is packed with whole foods that are freeze-dried, locking in nutrients.
I saw remarkable improvements in my dogs within weeks.
Try Dr. Marty risk-free for 90 days. Plus, get a free gift when you call or visit drmartypets.com/Caesar.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age with my wife Shirley, who is 82. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the 2 videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
It happened again. In fact, it happened twice over the weekend. First, 5 are dead, 8 others injured following a church shooting in Michigan. Yesterday around 12:25 a.m. local time, 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford drove his pickup truck into a Mormon church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. Sanford then opened fire, shooting the worshipers. He didn't stop with that. After shooting worshipers, Sanford then set fire to the church. In the past 24 hours, local officials held 2 pressers on the attack. Here are the highlights.
The suspect, again, we're in the preliminary stages right now, was neutralized at 10:33:44 in the parking lot of that church. That suspect is a 40-year-old male from the city of Burton, who we identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford. That's Thomas Jacob Sanford. This left 5 people dead, 8 people injured. As I said, this is an evil act and does not define Grand Blanc or who we are. At this time, what we know is everyone has been accounted for. We still are in the process of clearing out that church, but at this time, everyone is accounted for. The suspect from yesterday has been arrested by law enforcement in the past.
And the 5 dead, does that include the suspect, or is that?
The 5 dead includes the suspect.
Plus, multiple killings Saturday in North Carolina. At around 9:30 p.m. local time, a group of people were hanging out enjoying the warm weather at a waterfront bar named the American Fish Company. It was calm, it was fun, until gunshots rang out. According to police, 40-year-old Marine veteran Nigel Edge pulled his boat up to the waterfront bar and shot his weapon. 3 are dead, 8 others injured. Yesterday, Edge was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. He's also being charged with 5 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill. And today, the man accused of murdering Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, made his first court appearance, not in person, but virtually. National correspondent Joe Moeller is in Provo, Utah, with the latest. Joe?
Well, Greta, Tyler Robinson's defense attorney says they need more time to review the evidence before making a decision on a preliminary hearing. So today's hearing was actually set back another month. Well, Tyler Robinson was set to appear virtually in court today, and he was there virtually, but he did not show his face on camera. Now, when the court got started, we were expecting to see Tyler Robinson virtually from jail, but again, when that virtual room was pulled up, it was just a graphic from the jail. The county attorney said that was a request from his defense. Robinson is facing 7 charges, including aggravated murder in connection to the shooting and killing of Charlie Kirk. Today, Robinson and his attorney were supposed to decide whether to move forward with a preliminary hearing or not. But due to the amount of evidence that needs to be looked at, the waiver hearing today was moved to the end of October.
The state is required to provide to the defense within 5 days of the defense's request the discovery that we relied on in making this charging decision. There is a substantial amount of discovery in this case, Your Honor. It's voluminous, to say the least, and we're working on a process where we can exchange information as quickly as possible.
That next hearing is when we will expect to learn if they are going to waive a preliminary hearing or move forward. After a 33-hour investigation, Robinson was arrested after turning himself in alongside his parents, who investigators say recognized their son in the security images that were released. Since then, investigators have pointed to evidence such as DNA, text messages, and even a note they say ties him to Kirk's killing. Catherine Nestor, Robinson's defense attorney, said Robinson will appear in person at the next hearing at the end of October. She also said they don't plan to waive that preliminary hearing here in the case. As far as Turning Point USA, their tour did continue after that shooting earlier this month. Tour dates at different universities around the country, and the next one happening here is tomorrow at Utah State, north of Salt Lake City, and that is where the governor will be filling in for Charlie Kirk. As far as the waiver hearing here in Provo, that will be happening on October 30th. I'll send it back to you, Greta.
Joe Moeller, thank you very much. Coming up, this is a stunner. One professional baseball team had a winning season, made the playoffs, so why are the team fans protesting? That when the record continues.
The same voices.
Donald Trump knows that's a lie.
From the same people.
Donald Trump is less lucid.
Saying the same thing.
Insults, invective, and outright lies.
And you say, enough! I'm Chris Salcedo, and I'll tell you the real news. You don't believe me? Just tune in.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Frank Parisi was a fireman for 32 years. He's retired now, but not a day goes by that he doesn't think about the friends he lost and the lives he saved along the way. I wanted to know where it comes from, this willingness to run toward danger when everybody else is running in the other direction.
It starts to within. You have to have it in you to go into danger, but you don't realize it. And you got to do your job, you're trained, and it just clicks in. It's got to be in you, though. It's not for everybody. And you have a satisfaction. I have 2 life-saving awards, and I saved a couple people, and they're still around today, and it makes you feel good.
Frank switched to Pure Talk for the same reasons I did. He appreciates a fair deal, and he wanted to be in business with a company that shares his values. If that sounds like you, the offer on the screen is the real deal. Just like Frank, a proud American who switched to a wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
My employees and I want to thank all of you at Newsmax for your continued support of MyPillow. It's because of you and the grace of God that we're making it through. And to thank you, we're bringing you the best offers ever. Get our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regularly $119.98, now only $29.88. Our My Towels are finally back in stock. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. Towels that actually work. What a concept. And for the first time and the only time ever, you're going to get our limited edition premium My Pillows. They're made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code when you order today. Inventory for these offers are extremely limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
At Balsam Hill, we're crafting joy early this year. For a limited time, save up to 30% off on our beautifully designed lifelike Christmas trees, now made with more sustainable materials. Jumpstart the season and find your holiday spirit early this year at balsamhill.com.
A wide leaf filter? It's well designed, efficient. I appreciate that.
Leaf Filter's technology keeps debris out of your gutters for good. Guaranteed.
What more could you ask for?
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
During this baseball season and in seasons past, the Philadelphia Phillies hosted events celebrating different cultures. They have included Italian Family Night, a Latino community celebration, and an Oktoberfest. A few days ago, though, they held the Jewish Heritage Night. And inside the stadium, some fans protested. The organization Jewish Voices for Peace brought more than 50 people to protest against the war in Gaza. The group held up signs in the stands that read, "Philly Jews say Free Palestine and Go Phils." Security told them to take down the signs or leave the stadium because the signs violated the code of conduct. The protesters chose to leave the stadium. The Chris Salcedo Show is up next.